Let's just call it what it is, lust. That deep, electric hunger that shows up in your body when you want something so badly, it makes you restless. And I'm not just talking about sex. That's the surface level. I'm talking about lust in its purest form. Lust for power, lust for money, lust for recognition, lust for achievement, lust for the life you keep imagining. It's that pull, that craving, that fire that takes over your chest, races through your veins, and makes you feel like you could climb a mountain or rip the world apart, or maybe just waste 3 hours stuck in your head. Yeah, that, most people don't want to admit they feel it. They pretend they're calm, balanced, in control, but inside, they're burning and they don't know what to do with it. So what happens? They scroll, they overthink, they chase cheap hits of dopamine, they numb it, they feed it the wrong things. But here's the truth. That feeling isn't bad. It's not shameful. And it sure as hell doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means you're alive. It means there's energy in you, drive, desire. And that's a gift if you know what to do with it. See, nobody teaches us how to handle that kind of internal fire. They either tell you to suppress it or they let it run wild until it controls you. But the secret? The power is in facing it, feeling it, then flipping the script. You've got to stop being scared of your own intense. You've got to stop judging yourself for wanting more. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just wired to want. That's human. But here's the real problem. If you don't understand what that energy is, you'll spend your whole life reacting to it instead of using it. And that's what keeps you stuck. Let me be crystal clear. Lust is just energy looking for a purpose. It's not good or bad. It's raw. It's real. It's powerful. But if you don't control it, it will control you. And most people, they don't even realize it's running the show. That fire that shows up when you see someone attractive or when you imagine the life you wish you had, or when you're lying awake at night wondering why you're still stuck. That's not something to hide from. That's something to use. What if you stopped treating lust like a problem and started treating it like potential? What if you saw it as a sign that you care, that you want more, that there's something inside you that refuses to settle? Because that's what it really is. It's your soul trying to get your attention. It's your body saying, hey, I'm ready to move. I'm ready to create. I'm ready to build. But here's the catch. You can't just sit in that feeling. If you don't move, it festers. If you don't act, it turns into frustration. It morphs into anxiety. And that's when you start self-sabotaging. So let's flip this thing on its head. Let's stop pretending lust is something to be ashamed of and start realizing it's your untapped fuel. You've got to own it. You've got to stand in it. You've got to say, okay, I feel this. Now what am I going to do with it? That's where everything changes. That's where momentum starts. Because the minute you stop running from your hunger and start using it, you become unstoppable. Nobody talks about this because it's uncomfortable. It challenges everything we've been taught. But here's the truth. The people who win in life, the ones who break through, build empires, write books, start movements, run marathons, rebuild after heartbreak, they all feel it too. They've just learned how to turn that lust into movement. That's the real power. Not denying it, directing it. So if you're feeling restless right now, if you're craving something you can't quite name, if there's this heat inside of you that won't go away, good. That means you're right where you need to be. But now comes the choice. Will you keep letting that energy control you? Or will you do something with it? That's the question. And that's where we begin. Here's what most people don't realize. Lust isn't the enemy. It's energy. That's it. Raw, powerful, emotional energy with no GPS. It doesn't come with instructions. It doesn't say, hey, here's what you should do with this surge in your chest. No, it just shows up and you feel it in your gut, your throat, your hands, your legs, your mind racing. It's like electricity running through a live wire with no clear direction. And when you don't give it a direction, it does what all untamed energy does. It burns. It burns time, burns focus, it burns opportunities. But when you give it a target, when you tell it where to go, it builds. It fuels action. It becomes drive. Lust isn't about sex. It's about intensity. Think about that. It's the same energy you feel when you're drawn to someone physically, that fire in your stomach. That's the exact same fire you can use to write a chapter of that book you've been putting off. It's the same charge that could power a business idea, a life change, a workout, a new habit. But if you don't direct it, it goes nowhere. Or worse, it spirals into distraction, guilt, or wasted hours. People beat themselves up for feeling it, but the truth is, it's not that you feel it, it's what you do with it. This is where most people stay stuck. They wait for permission. They wait for clarity. They wait for a better time. Let me tell you something. Energy doesn't wait. It shows up. And if you don't tell it where to go, it'll make the decision for you. That means you end up doing things you regret. That means you chase comfort instead of growth. That means you confuse lust with impulse. But it's not the same. One is reaction. The other is redirection. You can't control that the feeling shows up. That's biology. You're wired to want. You're wired to pursue. That's how human beings survive. But what separates people who are driven from people who stay distracted is what they do when that moment hits. Some use it as fuel, some drown in it. And the good news? You get to choose. Every time you can train yourself to flip the switch, to say, I feel it, and now I'm going to do something with it. It's not about willpower. It's about understanding that lust is just a signal, a flare from your inner world saying, hey, there's energy here. Let's move. But it's neutral. It's not pulling for good or bad. It just is. And you are the one who decides the meaning. If you assign it to distraction, you'll stay stuck in that loop of craving, consuming, crashing. But if you assign it to something that matters, something that moves your life forward, that same energy becomes momentum. It becomes motivation on demand. So the next time that fire hits you out of nowhere, when your heart starts pounding, when your thoughts speed up, when you feel that restless ache to do something, stop, catch it, and remind yourself, this is just energy. It's not a problem. It's power. And now it's up to you to decide where that power goes. Will you scroll? Or will you move? Will you spiral? Or will you stand up and write the next sentence, make the call, take the walk, clean the kitchen, build the plan, do something with it? Because when you understand that lust is neutral, that it's not right or wrong, just directionless, you stop fearing it. You stop wasting it. You start using it like a tool. And once you see that, once you start practicing that, everything in your life begins to shift. You stop reacting to urges and start responding with purpose. You stop feeling powerless and start realizing how much control you've had all along. This energy is inside you for a reason. It's there to create, not destroy. It's not a mistake. It's a resource. So stop waiting for someone to hand you a map. You are the map. Point it, use it, and watch what happens when you do. This is where things get real. You know that surge you feel? That fire in your gut. When desire hits, that's your moment of power. That's not weakness. That's the trigger. And if you're smart, you'll stop running from it and start using it. Because that exact moment, the second the craving kicks in, is your golden window. It's the cue. And if you build a new habit loop right there, your whole life changes. Here's how this works. Every habit has a trigger. Something happens, and your brain says, okay, this is the part where we react. Most people react by default. They feel a craving, and they reach for the phone. They feel a craving, and they go back to the person they said they'd stop texting. They feel a craving and they waste that energy scrolling or numbing or hiding. That's not because they're weak. That's because they trained their brain to do that over time. Repetition, familiarity. But guess what? That also means they can retrain it. You can take that same trigger and build something new. Something that serves you, something that fuels your growth instead of draining it. The trick is simple, but powerful. The moment you feel that pull, you pause. Just a few seconds. That pause is where the power is. It's where the old wiring starts to break. You interrupt the pattern, and then you replace it. You do something different. You stand up, you take a cold shower. You go outside, you open a blank page and write the first messy sentence of your idea. You do push-ups, you take water, you shift, you move. And when you do that, you teach your brain a new loop. You say, hey, this feeling means we take action, not reaction, action. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. That fire inside, it starts to become associated with progress. You rewire the response. The trigger stays the same, but your life starts to move in a different direction. People underestimate how fast this can change. You don't need 30 days. You don't need perfection. You need reps. You need a clear cue, lust, craving, desire, whatever you want to call it, and a conscious response. That's the habit loop. And once you lock that in, that same energy that used to distract you starts driving you. Let's be honest. You already know what your usual response looks like. You know the late night scrolling, the endless mental arguments, the regret that creeps in afterward. That's the old loop. You don't need more shame. You need a new strategy. So start where you are. The next time the urge hits, say it out loud if you have to. This is the trigger, and I'm choosing something better. Say it in your head, whisper it under your breath. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you catch the moment and interrupt the autopilot. This is how you gain real self-control. Not by forcing yourself to stop feeling. That never works. The feeling's not going away. But your response, that's where the freedom lives. That's where discipline gets built. Not in giant, dramatic changes, but in small, consistent rewires of your instinct. You get to decide what that new loop looks like. It's not one size fits all. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's stretching. Maybe it's making a to-do list and knocking off the smallest task just to prove to yourself that you're in charge. But you've got to commit. You've got to tell your brain. We don't waste that fire anymore. We build with it. And yes, it's going to feel awkward at first. Your brain is used to going down the old road, but that road leads to nowhere. You've been down it 100 times, and you already know what's waiting at the end. So why not try something new? Why not use the same energy and aim it at something that moves your life forward? Because here's the truth. The craving isn't the problem. The lack of direction is. And now that you know what to do with it, now that you understand, the trigger is your turning point. You've got the upper hand. It's not about resisting the fire. It's about giving it a job. That's the shift. That's the edge. That's how you flip lust into a weapon for growth instead of a trap for regret. You feel the trigger. You pause. You redirect. You repeat. That's how you win. Here's the deal. You want to stop obsessing? Start moving. Period. That's the antidote. That's the cure. Because the mind spirals when the body's still. You sit there, stewing, overthinking, playing the same scenes on loop in your head, and the craving just grows. You can't outthink obsession. You can't reason with it. You interrupt it. And the fastest, most effective way to interrupt it is motion. Your body is built to move. And every time you move, even just a little, a walk, a stretch, a task, you send a signal to your brain. We're doing something now. And that breaks the cycle. That burns the static that turns that heavy, overwhelming energy into flow. And flow is where momentum lives. That's where clarity lives. But you'll never get there if you're stuck sitting in the same chair, fighting the same thought, hoping it magically disappears. It won't. Obsession feeds on stillness. It thrives in silence and darkness and isolation. You know that feeling. You're stuck in your head. You can't stop replaying the images. You can't stop checking. You can't stop searching, watching, waiting. That is the loop. That's what addiction feels like, not just to lust, but to the cycle of rumination. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The second you start moving, the power of that obsession begins to crack. It loses grit. Why? Because you gave your brain a new problem to solve, a new direction to go. It doesn't have to be big. You don't need to run 5 miles. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to move. Clean the kitchen. Take a walk around the block. Pick up a book. Get under a cold shower. Do 10 jumping jacks. Literally anything. Because motion does 2 things immediately. It changes your environment and it changes your physiology. And when those 2 things shift, your mind shifts with it. You want to know why that craving feels so strong? It's not because you're weak. It's because your mind has nowhere else to go. It's been trained to chase intensity, to seek the highest dopamine hit. But that intensity doesn't always have to come from the same source. You can create new intensity with progress, with challenge, with movement. You can literally retrain your brain to crave motion instead of fantasy. And once you do that, you start regaining control. Every time you move, when the urge hits, you're building a new pathway, a stronger one, a faster one. It's like laying new tracks for a train. The more you do it, the easier it becomes for your mind to automatically go there next time. You stop defaulting to obsession and you start defaulting to action. And action is what creates freedom. Think about this. The times you feel most stuck, most lost, most tempted, those are usually the times you're most still. Lying in bed, sitting alone, scrolling endlessly, that stillness invites the craving in. It opens the door wide. But when you stand up, when you change your location, your rhythm, your focus, you slam that door shut. You don't give it space to grow. You are not helpless in those moments. You are not broken. You just need a tool that works. And motion works every time. It's reliable. It's free. It's instant. You don't need motivation to move. You just need to start. Don't think. Don't wait. Just go. Because the second you move, even a little, you shift out of obsession and into presence. That's power. So when the next wave hits, when the fantasy kicks in, when the screen calls your name, when you feel that pull, stand up, move, do something with your hands, walk it off, dance it off, shake it off. Doesn't matter how it looks. What matters is that you're interrupting the pattern. And once you do that enough times, the obsession loses its grip. It stops running your day. You don't need to fight your thought. You don't need to wrestle your cravings. You need to move. Because motion kills obsession every time. That's your reset button. That's your break in the loop. That's how you stop spiraling and start rising. Not someday. Now. Let's get real. Temptation isn't just stealing your focus, it's robbing your time. And time is the most valuable thing you have. You don't get it back. You don't earn more. Every minute you spend chasing distraction is a minute you lose from your goals, from your peace, from your future. That's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud, but I will. Because if you don't wake up to this, you'll keep repeating the same day over and over again, thinking something will magically change. It won't. Temptation isn't about desire. It's about avoidance. You're not running toward something when you give in. You're running from something. Rehomes stress, from discomfort, from your own potential. It's easier to open a browser than to face your real life. It's easier to escape into fantasy than to build something real. But here's the part that hurts. Every time you choose the easy path, you reinforce the cycle. You wire it in deeper. You teach your brain. When life gets hard, we check out, and then it becomes automatic. But automatic doesn't mean permanent. That loop can be broken. And it starts with recognizing the cost. Not just emotionally, logistically. Let's do the math. Let's say you give in to a 2-hour scroll session once a day. That's 14 hours a week. That's 56 hours a month. That's over 600 hours a year. You realize what you could build with that? A business, a skill, a whole new identity. But instead, you're stuck in a loop of shame and regret because you keep letting temptation hijack your hours, and by extent your life. And don't tell yourself it's just a little here and there. That's how it gets you. Just 5 minutes. Just this one time. That's the bait. That's the lie. 5 minutes turns into 30. One time turns into a pattern. And suddenly you're waking up months later wondering why you feel behind, why your self-confidence is shot, why your energy's gone. It's because you gave it away. Piece by piece. One small choice at a time. So what do you do about it? You take your time back. You get ruthless about it. You protect it like it matters. Because it does. You create blocks in your day where temptation doesn't get access. Not because you hate yourself, because you respect yourself. You decide this hour belongs to my goals. And then you guard that hour like your future depends on it. Because it does. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait to feel ready. That's not coming. You act first, and the readiness shows up after. You set a timer. You write one sentence. You hit record. You move, you act, you pull yourself out of the loop and into reality. And yeah, it's uncomfortable at first. Your brain will fight you. It'll scream, come on, just relax. Just check once, just give in. But you don't listen because you know what's at stake now. You know the game and you're done playing small. Let's say you mess up. Fine, you're human. But don't lie down in it. Don't lose the whole day. Get back up fast. Interrupt the pattern as soon as you can. Don't let one mistake become an excuse to waste more time. That's the old you, the one who didn't know better. But now you do. And now it's on you. Start tracking your time, not obsessively, strategically. Just ask yourself once a day, where did my time go today? And be honest. If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is your wake-up call. It's your proof that you care, that something inside you still wants more. And that part of you, that's the part you feed now. Every time you win that small battle, when you put the phone down, when you turn the screen off, when you lean into action instead of escape, you reclaim another piece of your life. And those wins add up. You start walking taller. You start showing up with purpose. You feel different because you are different. And it's not because temptation disappeared. It's because you stopped letting it decide how your day goes. You've got big goals, big dreams. And guess what? They need your time. They need your attention. You don't build anything powerful by accident. You build it hour by hour, choice by choice. And the more time you give to your real priorities, the less tempting the distractions even feel. So the next time that urge hits, look at the clock. Ask yourself, is this how I want to spend the next 10 minutes of my life? Because once they're gone, they're gone. And if the answer is no, then act like it. Move, be focused, reclaim the moment. You are not weak. You're just untrained. But now you're training, you're waking up. You're done letting temptation steal your future. That ends today. If you're fighting this in secret, you're already losing. That's the trap. That's the lie that keeps you stuck. Telling yourself, I'll deal with it on my own while you spiral in silence. Hiding your struggle doesn't make you, it keeps you powerless. Shame feeds in the dark. But healing happens in the light. You cannot fix what you refuse to face. And you sure can't change something you keep pretending isn't a problem. You're not the only one dealing with this. You're not broken. You're not disgusting. You're human. And you're not alone. Not by a long shot. But when you isolate, when you keep the battle in the shadows, you give it more power than it ever deserved. Here's how this really works. The longer you keep this part of your life hidden, the deeper the roots grow. The stronger the guilt, the harder the pattern is to break. And the worse you feel about yourself, the more you run back to the very thing you're trying to escape. It's a vicious cycle. Shame, slip-out, silence, repeat. That ends now, because freedom isn't found in perfection. It's found in truth. It's found when you stop hiding, stop pretending, and start getting honest with yourself first, then with someone you trust. That moment, the moment you say out loud, I don't want to live like this anymore, that's when the shift begins. That's when your mind finally stops fighting itself and starts moving forward. You're not meant to carry this alone. You're not wired to face temptation, addiction, isolation, and stress without support. Nobody is. It doesn't make you weak to admit you're struggling. It makes you wise. It makes you ready. Ready to stop covering up. Ready to stop managing a secret life. Ready to step into a version of yourself that doesn't rely on secrecy to survive. This isn't about confessing to the whole world. This isn't about guilt or shame or making a spectacle. It's about bringing it into the light so it loses its grip. The second you speak it, even just in a journal or to a friend, you take power back. You name it, you claim it, and now you can do something about it. It stops owning you. And you want to know what else happens when you bring it into the light? Accountability shows up. Real, healthy, not punishment, not judgment. Support. And that's what fuels lasting change. Because you're not just fighting lust. You're fighting the habits, the silence, the secrecy that fed it for so long. And that fight, it's a whole lot easier when you stop doing it alone. You want to break through? Then stop living in hiding. Stop saying, I've got this, while everything inside you says otherwise. If you had this, you wouldn't be stuck in the same cycle. So it's time to do something different. It's time to let the light in. And here's what that looks like. You draw boundaries. You install blockers. You get accountability software if you need it. You ask someone to check in on you. You talk to someone when the urge hits instead of isolating. You build a system that works in the light, not a double life that collapses every time you're alone. The darkness wants you quiet. It wants you ashamed. It wants you convinced you're the only one struggling. That's a lie. The second you expose it, it weakens. Every single time. So if you're serious about winning this, not just for a day, but for good, you bring it out of hiding. You talk. You journal. You open up. You let someone into your fight. Even just one person. Because when you do that, the walls start falling. You can't become your strongest self while keeping secrets that drain your soul. You can't walk in purpose while constantly battling hidden guilt. You deserve freedom. You deserve clarity. You deserve to look in the mirror and like what you see. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. You're honest. You're showing up. So no more battles in the dark. No more pretending. No more silence is your call to step into the light. It's not too late. You're not too far gone. This fight isn't over. It's just getting started. And now you're finally fighting it the right way. This thing you've been wrestling with, this temptation, this struggle, this part of you that feels out of control, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning. This is not about shame. This is about power. Because what if I told you that the very thing you've been trying to run from is actually the thing that could drive you forward faster than anything else? That fire inside you, it's not bad. It's not broken. It just hasn't been directed. The intensity of that desire, that energy, it doesn't have to be wasted. It doesn't have to be something that controls you. It can become fuel, but only if you stop feeding it garbage and start feeding it purpose. You already have the strength. Don't you get that? If you've been carrying the weight of guilt, if you've been stuck in a cycle of craving and regret, and you're still here, that's proof. You're stronger than you think. You've survived the inner war. Now it's time to win it. But you won't win it by trying to suppress the fire. You win it by redirecting it, transmuting it, using it. You take that same energy and you move your body. You speak the truth. You build something. You focus on growth. You show up every day, even when you're tired, even when it's hard, even when the old patterns whisper, just one more time. You don't give in. Not because it's easy, but because you've made a decision. And the moment you decide, really decide, everything changes. You're not here to live a small life. You're not here to be stuck in a shame spiral. You're here to build, to grow, to rise. And that transformation, it doesn't come from wishing. It comes from action, from choosing to rise up again and again until the old habits lose their grit. You take that fire, that urge, and you assign it a mission. You say, this energy is going toward my goals. This passion is building my strength. This hunger is fueling my purpose. You turn the urge into reps. You turn it in the pages written, steps walked, videos recorded, calls made. You use it because the truth is that craving doesn't have to be destructive. It can be creative. You're not trying to get rid of it. You're trying to reclaim it. You take back the controls. And suddenly, what used to be a weakness becomes your weapon. You stop saying, what's wrong with me? And start saying, what can I do with this? That shift, that's the key. That's the unlock. You realize you're not powerless. You're powerful, but only if you channel it. So here's what I want you to do. The next time that familiar urge creeps in, don't run. Don't hide. Stand up and move. Clap your hands, shake it off, interrupt the pattern, and act. Right then, open the laptop, pick up the journal, walk out the door, use the fire immediately. Turn it into momentum. You're not a victim of lust. You're the director of your drive. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop wasting time. Stop giving in to the cycle. Stop pretending you don't care, because deep down you do care. That's why it hurts. That's why you're still listening. That's why you haven't quit. You're standing at the edge of a new chapter, one where you take the mess and make it your message, one where your past doesn't own you. It launches you. That fire isn't here to destroy you. It's here to wake you up. And now you know how to use it. You interrupt the habit. You shift the energy. You move, you act, you build, you speak, you fight. Not from fear, but from fire. That's how you take control. That's how you stop being stuck. That's how you turn lust into unstoppable motivation. This isn't theory. This is practice. This is now. You don't wait until you feel like it. You don't wait until Monday. You do it today. You do it now. Because the fire's already burning and it's time to use it. Let's go.